In the last lesson for our first review unit, we're going to look at the tricks that we need to use in order to solve an equation. So if you remember from previous years, an equation is a statement that is equal to a value. And you'll notice, just like in the proportions in the previous lesson, we've got this unknown value of x in each question. Or sometimes we could have a different variable. But our goal is always to try and find out what value that is. Okay? We call this isolating the variable. Isolating means get it by itself. So in our processes, we're going to try and get this x by itself. Okay, right now it's together with the 15. We're going to show you how you're going to undo that. So the one thing that we want to remember is we're going to use opposite operations. So if you think of our operations, we've got addition. And the opposite of addition is subtraction, and the opposite of subtraction is addition. So those two pair up together. And then we have multiplication and its opposite, dividing, or dividing and the opposite is multiplying. Okay? So those are going to be the opposite operations that we're going to do. Okay? And the other point that we're going to remember is when we do this, we're going to use SAMDEB. What it really is BEDMAS backwards. So what this means is we're going to deal with, when we're solving equations, we're going to deal with the subtracting and adding part first, the multiplying and dividing part second. Okay? We're not going to worry about the exponents and brackets for this course, but we can talk about them if you have questions about them. Okay? For this lesson, I'm just going to work through the 5 examples. So if you think you're ready to try a couple of them on your own, pause the video, try it on your own, and then play the video back to check on your own work. Okay? But I'm not going to give you a chance to stop throughout, so you'll need to do that whenever you feel like it. Okay? In the first example, x plus 15 is equal to 19. Okay? So it's asking what number plus 15 more is equal to 19. Now you can probably figure this out in your head pretty quickly, but I'm going to work through the steps because even with these easy ones, going through the process is going to help you feel more confident when you get to more difficult examples. All right. So our goal is to try and get this x by itself. That means I need to get rid of this plus 15 here. Okay. The way that we're going to do that is using opposite operations. So what's the opposite of addition? Well, we set up here that the opposite of addition is subtraction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 15 and I'm going to throw it over here on the other side of the equal sign. Okay? So when I do that, this is where the opposite operation comes into play. I'm going to take that plus 15 and I'm actually going to change it to a minus 15. You'll notice that now I've got my x by itself. There's nothing else with the x over on the left-hand side of the equal sign. Okay? From here, it's just doing a simple calculation. 19 minus 15 is 4, which you might have already been able to figure out just looking at the question. What do we add with 15 to get 19? Well, 4 plus 15 does give us 19.
Mr. Wolf, you have a call on 100. Mr. Wolf, 100.
Moving on to the second example, we've got x, and remember this line here means divide. Okay, so we have x divided by 3 equals negative 6. Okay? I want to get rid of this divided by 3 so that x is by itself. So I'm going to take this 3 and I'm going to move it over to the other side of the equal sign. I've got minus 6, and then the opposite of divide by 3 is multiply by 3. So when I bring this across, I'm going to use the opposite operation of dividing, change this to multiply by 3. And if you think back to the work you did with integers, when we have a negative multiplied with a positive, our answer is going to be negative, and then 6 times 3 is 18. Now, when we get to the third example, you'll notice that there are now 2 numbers with the x. We've got a 2 and a 1. Okay, so we need to get rid of both numbers so that we can get the x by itself. Now the question is, which one do we do first? And this is when we refer back.
Please pick up line 100. Mr. Wolf, please pick up line 100.
We refer back to SAMDEB. So when we're solving equations, we use BEDMAS backwards. So we're going to deal with the adding and subtracting part first, which is the minus 1 or subtract 1. Okay. We're going to leave the 2 with the x for the time being. We're going to take this minus 1, bring it across to the other side, The opposite of minus 1 is plus 1. And if we simplify this down, 2x is equal to 10 when we combine that 9 and the 1 together. Okay. We've now gotten rid of one of our two numbers. We now have to get rid of our second number. Okay. Remembering that in between the 2 and x, there's really an invisible multiplying sign. Okay. So when I want to get rid of this 2, I'm going to bring it across to the other side. And the opposite of multiply by 2 is divide by 2. And the last step is to take 10 divided by 2, giving us an answer of 5. Okay. Now one thing you can always do is you can always take this and check it with the original equation. Well, if I said x is equal to 5, this means 2 times 5. Well, 2 times 5 is 10. And if I take 10 and I subtract 1, that does give me 9. Okay. The next example is very similar. We've got two numbers to deal with. Okay, but using SAMDEB, again, I'm going to deal with the adding and subtracting part first. So first thing is to deal with this adding 5. I'm going to leave the 3 with the y for the moment. I'm going to bring this plus 5 over, and it's going to become 17 minus 5. Doing the quick little calculation here, 17 minus 5 is 12. And just like in the last question, we've got that multiplying between our number and our letter. So this means 3 times y. So when I bring that 3 across to the other side, that multiply changes to divide. So I'm going to have 12 divided by 3. Y is equal to 4. And again, just doing a quick little calculation. If I think y is equal to 4, well, 3 times y, well, 3 times 4 would give me 12. And then 12 plus 5 is indeed 17. And the last one here looks a little bit different because we have brackets. Okay, and the reason I said earlier that we're not going to worry about brackets with our BEDMAS is because it's hard to do anything with the brackets because we've got the 2 attached to the brackets. So there's one little trick that we're going to use here. Okay, we're going to get rid of the brackets so that we don't even have to worry about them. Thinking back to some of the times we've talked about, if I've got a number in front of a bracket, again, just like up here, I've got that invisible multiply sign. So this means 2 times that whole bracket. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go 2 times x, so I get 2x. And then I'm also going to multiply the 2 with the 5. So 2 times 5 is 10.
Would a custodian please go to the phys ed corridor? Custodian to the phys ed corridor.
So when I multiply that 2 through, 2x plus 10 equals 4. You notice I didn't multiply the 2 with the 4 because that 4 is not part of the bracket. Okay. Now, once I've got rid of the brackets, it looks like the previous 2 examples where I've got 2 numbers to get rid of. Okay. Again, I'm going to take care of that adding part first. So I'm going to bring that plus 10 across to the other side. When I do that, I need to use the opposite operation. So I get minus 10. And then again, going back to our work with integers a couple days ago, 4 minus 10, if you want to pull out your number line, we get negative 6. One step to go. We've got to get rid of this 2. Again, this means 2 times x. So when I bring that 2 across, that times becomes divide. Last step, do this little calculation. Negative 6 divided by 2 will give us negative 3. So at this point, you should feel confident that you can move on to the worksheet, solve the equations that are there. Make sure you show your processes, show your steps as you work through. Only do one step at a time. Keep it simple. Okay? If you try and do too many things at once, you may end up making a mistake. Okay, so outline it one step at a time, just like we did in all of these examples, and you should be successful. Okay? Just a reminder, once you finish your last worksheet, hand it in to me so I can check it over, and I'll give you a copy of the assignment that you can go through and show me what you've learned over the past few days.